and welcome to Canuck of the Dead, our first live show. I'm your host, Rob, and tonight we are going to chat with a gentleman. I was going to do the first live show. I wouldn't want to do it with anybody else. Great friend of mine. This is CF Benner from Black Fawn Distribution. Benner, how you doing?
Hey, Rob. Yeah, good, man. Thanks for gentleman, eh? I appreciate that. That's I feel like I'm punching above my weight now.
Well, no, because you are a very wanted man. Like I want to remind everybody. So he's
I had
wanted.
forgotten about that. Amazing. Well, thanks for having me on. It's yeah, I mean, I feel like when you mentioned this was going to be the first live podcast, that's what we do. That's what I do kind of every other week. So yeah, well, I feel like I'm ready. I'm ready, man. I'm not going to waste any of your time. I'll put it that way.
No worries. No worries. So we're going to dig right in because you run the distribution area, like your whole team there. And how do you find the films that you distribute? Like I'm just going to give an example because these are some that we might be giving out tonight. There's one called Silent Retreat, which is a great movie. The Door, Horsehead. The Bloody Bits compilation. I love that. Volume 1 and Volume 2 are great. And then finally, Disco Path. Like these are from different areas for sure. So how did you find these, or how do you track them down?
Yeah, in a variety of ways. I mean, just the titles that you held up there, like they all kind of have a different story as to how we acquired them. But mostly, it's film festivals are a big thing for us. We've gone to a few and sort of have our finger on the pulse with that as far as like going to the festivals and checking films out. We've picked up a couple of films from Blood in the Snow Film Festival, obviously, which you are extremely familiar with, of course. But they have their festival every November. They've been running 10 years strong. So we've gone, I think, to every single event that they've had in late November each year. So we've been able to pick up a couple titles from there. Sometimes it's just people reaching out. So people that have, they know that we're a distributor. They know that we focus on horror and thrillers, I guess you could throw in there as well. But that's sort of that's our wheelhouse. That's our bread and butter. So we do get some people reaching out, and sometimes it's a good fit, right, for what we're looking for. And then the other times, I mean, we also distribute our own films. So the films that we make on our production side of things, which is a separate company, but we will acquire the Canadian rights for that and distribute those films through there. So and sometimes it's just it could be, again, in addition to like just someone reaching out from an email, it could be a cold call like that, basically, or it could be just a referral that we get from other filmmakers or other people that we know in the industry to say, hey, if you're looking for a home, give Black Fawn Distro a call and see if they might be interested. So
I gotta admit, that's exactly how I heard about you guys too. Buddy of mine, Ryan Andrews, filmmaker, and when we were first looking at doing our first film, he goes, well, Black Fawn are the people you want to talk to.
Well, we're good buddies with that guy too, and he's made some good stuff over the years as well. And the cool thing about like the horror community, especially in Southern Ontario, but I mean for the most part across Canada, but since Canada is such a sprawling piece of geography, we in Ontario or Southern Ontario, there's a really tight-knit community, and we've always tried to operate within that community in a very proactive way, in a very respectful way, and in a way where our mandate for our company, or our quote unquote mission statement, was to essentially find really great up and coming filmmakers in Canada, and help them get their films out across the country so other people could check them out. And that was basically how we started the company. It's not limited to Canadian films per se. However, we're the closest to that industry for sure, and we also know a lot of the players in it. So we've been lucky enough to develop those personal relationships over the years. And sometimes when a project comes to fruition and people are looking for a home, we're also looking for a film at that time, and it just works out. And it's been nice to see that kind of happen more often than not, especially for a lot of the projects we've worked on over the years.
Oh, excellent! I know, because it's a very diverse collection of films that I've seen with you guys. I know, like, If a Tree Falls is so different from, say, like Silent Retreat.
Yeah, I mean, we never like one of the things that kind of goes into our process, and it's not that it's a big complicated formula or anything like that, but really it's just it's a bunch of us sitting around and we all look at some screeners, and if we think that there's something there, then we'll pass it on to the next couple of guys, and hopefully everyone watches it and gets the same response. We sort of put things to a vote, like a loose vote, right? So and just to determine what are we putting out next. And you don't want to get into a rut of putting out the same films all the time. Just from our point of view, just from what we've done, sometimes that works very, very well for companies, and there's lots of great examples of companies being able to utilize that as a winning strategy for sure. But for us, we just kind of wanted to get to the point where we were always kind of putting out something different. A lot of the films that we make are sometimes different, and so we didn't want to get pigeonholed into one sort of brand of horror and just that. One is because Canada doesn't necessarily have a massive number of films to pull from. Not when you compare us to, like, let's say the US, for instance, obviously our closest neighbors. But it was just a way for us to kind of say, let's always try and put out something different. So it always seems kind of fresh. And it's not necessarily just from putting it out so people can check it out. That's obviously a huge component of it. And we're all film fans that work for the company as well. But also just, you're working on these projects too. So like if we pull the curtain back a little bit, like it's myself and Chad and the rest of the guys, working on these projects, one after the others in some respects. So it's kind of cool to put out, different things each time, just so it keeps it fresh on our end as well.
Let's take a look back, to kind of look back and forward then. What was the very first film you ever released through Black Fawn?
So the first film that we released through Black Fawn Distribution was If a Tree Falls. And that was basically Gabriel Carrere, who's great friend of ours, and Bry Barrett put together this film, and they were like,
for instance, obviously our closest.
let's go out and film. Their prerogative was like, let's go out and film something and make kind of a cool movie with as much as we can. And there's I'm getting a little bit of feedback there, Rob. I don't know if you're hearing that.
Yeah, I just
so live television, everyone. It's the most exciting. No, but they had this project, and Chad was involved on the production side of things a little bit, giving them a helping hand where he could. And then after the fact, we said, listen, let's it was actually around that time that Chad came to me and said, I remember this like clear as day. Like we were in the time we were living together, and he sat down in the living room and he said, hey, what if I want to run an idea by you, and what if we started like a sister company to Black Fawn Films that was like a distribution company that would sort of like pick up other titles and distribute them across Canada, and we could build it out from there. And at the time, I was like kind of looking for something to do outside of my regular day to day, and so I said, well, how would that work? And he said, well, look, like we've been working on, Gabe and Barrett have been working on this other film called If a Tree Falls. We could start with that one and put that film out, and that's kind of how everything kind of came together. So we released that film, and then we picked up a couple other films and started just making DVDs, putting them out, setting up an online presence, and then expanding out there expanding out from there, going to conventions and building out our revenue streams. Right. So yeah, it's been a long journey, but it's certainly been fun for sure.
Okay. Well, then now we're going to come full circle. What was the last one that you released?
So the last film we put out was a film called Hall, and it's like a viral zombie movie. Really cool flick. It's got some friends of ours in the film. Obviously Mark Gibson and Julian Richings, who we've worked with numerous times in the past, and also we just recently worked with them on Vicious Fun as well. But there's it's got a great concept that was developed before the pandemic, which is kind of has the pandemic as a background. So we thought that was really, really cool. And that's not the whole film. Like it's definitely, it's a nuanced film. And around the same time, we actually put out the Oak Room as well. which was Cody Callahan's film that he directed previous to Vicious Fun, which is kind of like a low key, slow burn psychological thriller in the kind of the vein of No Country for Old Men or Fargo, like that type of vibe. So not
Okay.
necessarily like a straight horror movie, but yeah, those are the last two movies that we've put out.
Is there a difference that you've noticed when you first decided, okay, if a tree falls, let's make this our first film, and now the criteria that you look at, has that changed a lot from then to now?
That's a good question. Yes, I think so in a word. And I guess how has it changed? We just looking for opportunities to kind of get acquire films that have like a slightly higher budget. I wouldn't say that's not the be all and end all of our criteria, but just kind of acquiring films that really have that sort of critical and audience reach that they've maybe acquired or developed on the film festival circuit or just on their own, and then just really coming into the process and helping that film sort of get a release that it deserves. Putting a lot of time into the packaging and that sort of stuff. So, we started off just doing DVDs, like that's all we did. And now we're doing, Blu-rays and digital releases and VOD and all that fun stuff as well. And now moving right into AVOD and all kinds of other stuff that sort of wasn't around 10 years ago. So that's one criteria, but ultimately it's really just like, is the film good? Like, what does it bring to the table? Obviously, we're not expecting anyone to like create like, the next, movie that's going to revolutionize the horror business. Like those don't come around too often. Not even in regular film does that come around too often. So, but like what is this film kind of doing differently? Like what's it trying to do? And does it give anyone that's watching it sort of like a slightly different experience from something else that they've watched? And even the movies like you just mentioned, like, Silent Retreat, Disco Path, those are movies that were made like a while ago. And they still hold up in my opinion. Like they still sort of put a little bit of a bend on what they were trying to do. And that's, to us, that's cool, right? It's like watching a film and being like, oh, that's kind of a neat take on that. Oh, that's kind of a neat hook. That's a neat idea. And if the film's competently made, then that, for us, that checks a lot of boxes. And then so by putting, and then, we put it through our team and we kind of come up with ideas on how to market it and how to kind of put out some promotional aspects to it that sort of tie into that film and just kind of complete that package sort of as a lot of the pieces are already there. And if we can drop a couple other pieces and really kind of complete a picture, then that's what gets us excited. Right.
Excellent. Real quick, we're going to mention that you guys have partnered with Infamous Horror and have a really cool contest going on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Do you want to talk about that or do you want me to talk about it?
If you want, go for it, and then I will pick up the pieces afterwards.
Yeah. So we're so Black Fawn Distribution is partnering up with Infamous Horror, and we've got a contest running throughout January, I believe. So the entire month of January, where and you can check out the post on the Infamous Horror Facebook page. And I believe it's pinned to the top of the page there. And really all you have to do is you have to, I think, share the post. You have to like the Black Fawn Distro YouTube channel, the Infamous Horror YouTube channel, and I believe comment, I think. I don't have the details in front of me, but I think you'll correct me in a second. But it's really, really quick. I mean, it takes you maybe like 3-4 minutes, and it'll enter you in to win a giant prize pack that we kind of put together with Infamous Horror, and it's got all kinds of stuff in there: DVDs, Blu-rays, and it's coffee, hat, a toque, and some other fun stuff as well. Which I think there's some surprises in there too. But yeah.
Oh, nice. No, you nailed all the beats. It says like and comment the post, subscribe to Infamous Horror YouTube channel, subscribe to Black Fawn Distro YouTube channel, and then share the post like a zombie plague. It says
yes. Here. Yes. So I remembered all that. That's great.
Yeah.
Still got it.
Now, since we're talking about that little prize pack, if you had to look at your Black Fawn films, what would be your 6-pack that you would take with you? Because we now have a zombie plague, you're on an island.
Oh, from the films that we've released?
Yeah. And just pick your 6 and give a quick synopsis of each one.
Okay.
No pressure.
Okay, so my 6 currently released. I know we just made a big announcement about stuff that's coming in 2022, but let's say currently released. Disco Path for sure. Uh, and my reason, you want to run down to the movie, or do you want just my reasons for taking it?
A little synopsis of what it's about, and then
Okay.
why you would take it.
Okay, so Disco Path for sure. One, it's about a guy who every time he hears disco music, he turns into a psychotic maniac. But it's also a period piece. It's set in the late 70s, early 80s. So he hears disco all the time. It's an awesome movie. It's bananas. I recommend everyone check that out. I think, and it's going to be on. It's going to be available on some AVOD platforms coming up soon as well, so people will be able to check it out for free. But it's got a banging soundtrack and it's got great rewatchability. So I would take Disco Path for sure. Also features Kiss. I Was Made for Loving You, which is like, I love that disco Kiss tune.
Very
Uh, shout out Chris Alexander. I know he likes that song too, I'm pretty sure. So okay, so my 6-pack. So there's one. Oak Room for sure. Just because it's a really cool, it's a slower movie, but it's got a lot of dynamic acting in it, and it's got a lot of really cool, you kind of see something new in that film each time.
roughly, what's it about?
So it's about a grizzled old bartender is working in this sort of like Northern Ontario bar, like in every Northern Canadian town. And this guy comes in, who is kind of used to live in the town, but he's been away for a couple of years. He comes back and he offers to settle up an old debt that he has with the bartender by telling him a story. And so, and not giving too much away, the bartender goes, well, what the hell? I mean, you can't settle up what you owe me with a story. But then he tells the story, and things go from there. And it's sort of like a recount of all these other stories. So it's like a story inside a story inside a story, which is really, really, really cool.
Okay.
Horsehead for sure. Horsehead was the first film we acquired for a Blu-ray release. We did a DVD release, which is right there on the screen as well, but we did a Blu-ray release. I love this movie. It's a beautiful movie to look at. It's a dream horror movie. Basically, it's about a girl who is she's studying dreams, and I can't remember the term for it off the top of my head. It's on the back of that DVD, Rob, if you could take a look. But it's and then she comes home. Her grandmother passes away, and when she gets home, she starts having these really, really crazy dreams about this monstrous horsehead creature that keeps following her in the dream. And
Psychophysiology.
What's it called?
Psychophysiology.
Psychophysiology. That's right. So study of dreams, basically. But I love dream horror movies. Like I love Hellraiser and Nightmare on Elm Street, and it's got that kind of vibe to it. I don't want to compare it directly to those films, but it's, if that's kind of your bag, you'd like it. And I just really like everything about it. It was also our first film that we picked up from Europe, so it was filmed in France in English. It's kind of like, I guess you would half a foreign film, so filmed in English, but really, really beautiful landscapes and cinematography in that film. So that's 3. I need 6. Okay, 6.
Right. Black Fawn 6-pack.
Okay, so Black Fawn 6-pack. So if I was on a desert island, I'd probably take In the House of Flies, which is a film by Gabriel Carrere. So it was the movie he made after If a Tree Falls, and then it was the movie that he made before he went on to make Demolisher, and of course For the Sake of Vicious, which we just interviewed those guys, and that film's on Shudder now, which is pretty cool. So it's kind of a slow burn movie, but it's got Henry Rollins is in it, so I love Henry Rollins as well, and so I'll get that one. Basically, it's set in the 80s. A couple goes out for like a night out at the at kind of like the carnival. They sort of get kidnapped, and then they wake up in sort of a basement, and they need to kind of, there's a voice on this phone that keeps challenging them. And so there's a lot of like, social commentary on it and stuff like that too, which is really, really cool. It's sort of like a survival escape movie too, right? So I'll take that one. Number 4, I guess. I'll take Your Dead as well.
Yes.
Which directed by Chad Archibald, obviously. So of course, me and Chad work together basically every day. But it's a great film too, and it's about a guy who disposes bodies for any criminals looking to get rid of a dead body, and these guys show up. They drop a bunch of dead bodies off on his doorstep. This guy lives out in the country in the middle of nowhere with his daughter, and one of the his daughter can see basically the spirits of these dead people that get dropped off and their dad cuts up and gets rid of. And but when this latest batch of casualties gets dropped off, one of the women that is alive still. And so it's sort of like it's a really good, great mishmash of genres. So it's kind of like a little bit of a crime movie, a little bit of a ghost story, a little bit of a survival movie. So and I've seen that with a live audience, and it's really cool. Like the hits, they hit just like they're supposed to. So, and what's that? That's 5.
That's 5.
I need 6. I'm trying to think of. And okay, yeah, and I'd take Harpoon as well.
Oh, yeah.
So Harpoon was a film that we were able to work out a deal with where we put out the Blu-ray a couple years ago, right before we released it in February 2020, if you can believe that. And then a month later, the entire planet closed down. So, but it's an awesome flick too. Sort of character-driven sort of flick with 3 people that they're like best friends, but they're all sort of they're pretty acidic and flawed, severely flawed individuals. But they take a yacht out or a big boat out onto I guess it's a yacht. No, I guess it may be a sailing boat, but or not a sailing boat, but anyway, a larger size boat. They take it out and they get stranded at sea. So, and they have to try and work their way out of this scenario to see how they can get home. But it's very, very, it's very quick. It's quick and it's sharp. It's a great movie. And I would take that one, especially on a desert island, because it would probably give me hope that I would maybe think of ideas of how to get off that desert island or how to survive myself. So there you go.
Okay, those are great picks.
Wow, that's a lot. I gotta take a drink after that.
No doubt. You guys do a very, very cool thing when you release your films too, because it's not just the film, but certain ones you will do your blacklist.
Right.
Explain A, what a blacklist is, and B, how you decided to do something like that.
Right. So so our blacklist packages are basically like they're special edition, like limited edition packages that we put together with a bunch of kind of cool things that collectors might like. We're big fans of physical media, and we love the extras that you can kind of get with, when you pick up a film. I think that's something that's kind of, it used to be more prevalent. Like you used to get these awesome sort of collector's editions of DVDs that came out, really intricate packaging or extras like inside. And so we tried to kind of incorporate that. I'm trying to think of the first movie we did that on, and I can't actually remember. Yeah, I actually I can't remember. Yeah, I think it was Bite. It might have been Bite that we did it on. And what it was, so we kind of put together like mini lobby cards for the film, some tie-ins. Sometimes we get so that's the one on the screen there is from Harpoon. So we did some Harpoon branded sunglasses, which were kind of cool. We did a survival kit, and we vinyl stickers from Vinyl Hell Sticker Company, which is a really cool sticker company run out of I believe it's Oshawa with our good buddy Rob. So we, just a bunch of stuff that you could get in there. We only make about 100 of them per release, depending. And the reason we did them is just because we just wanted to give something back that would sort of, it would be something that the filmmakers could put on their shelf, and also film collectors being able to acquire something like that would give them something a little bit more than just a disc in a case, I guess. So, and we've augmented that over the years by doing some retro artwork. So we're starting to do that. And so our releases going forward will all have this kind of retro artwork that sort of will be limited edition as a slipcase over the DVD or over the Blu-ray cover. And yeah, we plan on doing those for all the releases coming up. So
That's a cool idea. I gotta let you know, I still have the bounty bar that came with my harpoon blade.
Yeah, I don't know if you should eat that, but yeah.
Not now. I don't think so.
So we had to, and it was funny, like we had to, we watch the movie and we try and come up with ideas for it. Like we try and so for instance, like I know when we did the Ranger one, so we did the blacklist for the Ranger. We did a lot of cool stuff for that one because there was so much in that movie that we could pull from. So they had sort of like a fake band. They had fake bands in the movie. So we did like guitar picks of that fake band from the film, and we did lobby cards. We also got the shirts that the Ranger actually wore. So for that one, we were able to cut up pieces of the shirt and put them in to our blacklist package, so people would get a piece of the shirt that was screen worn. And so there was two shirts that were used on in the film, the Ranger shirts, and one of them was clean and one of them was super bloody. So anyone that ordered the film with the blacklist first got a bloody piece of the shirt, and anyone who ordered it afterwards got the clean piece of that shirt. But that was really, really fun to do. And we did like Ranger sunglasses, like the aviator sunglasses that were branded with the Ranger. And yeah, it was a fun one to work on for sure. But we watch those films and we try and we jot down notes and we all kind of throw our ideas in, say, how much would it cost to get this stuff made? Obviously, that's a little bit of a concern sometimes, just because you can come up with any idea you want and spend a gazillion dollars. But we try and keep it so it's like reasonable, but it's still kind of cool and kind of got that collector's vibe to it. So.
Well, and it's cool too when you put in screen worn stuff. Like Heretic has got a piece of one of the robes.
Yeah, that's another one we did. Yeah, the Heretics. Yeah, we had two of the cult member robes that were screen used. They're in the sacrifice scenes. And so we cut those up and everyone got a piece of those. So, and the rest of them are gone. Like they got destroyed or they got, or they just didn't make it. Right. I mean, that's sort of one of the things with filmmaking is not everything makes it off the set. And for Bed of the Dead, we did the axe handle. So the axe handle that's used to cut down the tree that goes on to make Bed of the Dead, that exact axe handle we cut up into segments, and everyone got a segment of that screen used axe, right? So
that's perfect. I still think the coolest is Bite. It's this one right here. And with it, you get your very own Bite barf bag and a bag of eggs, that, well, in this picture, she's spitting out of her mouth.
Yeah, the eggs were kind of basically eggs that were I think were purchased to be used in the film. But they're the same ones that we did use in the film. And so we had extras of those, so we packaged them up and kind of had a little bit of fun with it. And and people could make them at home. Like we had a bunch of them originally when we first put it out that were in like little jars, and we actually made them the exact same way because they were to be used on set. So so some people got those, and then but you could make your own egg sack, I guess, at home, which we thought was cool because I mean, just being like just fans of the genre in general, and thinking back to when you were a kid, and this is going to date myself, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, but those little things where you would cut out, like it'd be in a magazine and you would cut out a little thing and it would say mail this back to whomever and with like $5 and we'll send you some sea monkeys or whatever. Like that's kind of the thing that we were thinking of, is like, remember getting that stuff in the mail and then like trying to figure out how it was, how you'd put it together and what it meant. And we thought like tying that into kind of the films we were putting out might be kind of fun and keep it fun. Right. So.
Exactly. I still remember one of the things for I'll Take Your Dead, and it was the jar full of suckers because he kept his money in the jar, but he was also the candy man.
So we had to to get that done. I remember like I said, where did you get that jar? Right. So this was the one thing that we had to do, and nobody could remember. Like people were like, well, whatever. It was just a jar. Like, I mean, I don't even know who, like, talk to Chad and say, who got that jar? Dude, I don't know. Like, who knows? Right. So, so I had to like watch that scene a bunch of times in like slow motion and do sort of screenshots. Then I went and found the jars And then we had to kind of figure out which suckers. The suckers were just like the standard, like, the standard Halloween suckers. So that's how we kind of put that one together. But sometimes it takes some time. Like, you'll be surprised. Like, it's not just like, oh, we know those exact things. Sometimes it's like we really have to watch the film and figure out, okay, does that look exactly like that? And you try and match it up as close as you can, right?
Exactly. Bed of the Dead. I'm not sure how this, went together, but I loved it. Was the cootie catcher. That
Oh,
little,
yeah. Is that what that's called? It's called
I think it
yeah.
is.
Those things for people who don't know. It's like
Yeah,
everyone's
it's
like, what are you
the
guys talking about?
yeah.
It's that thing you would fold up and you would you'd pick a number. So you go 1, 2,
One,
3, 4, 5, 6, and then you'd pick another number. And then you'd open it up and it would tell you something. And that was, I think, it was like a death predictor or something. So whichever one you picked, it would tell you what your future death would be. And that was fun to come up with too, because we'd had to come up with a bunch. I think one of them was safe. Like, one of them was like, no, you're immortal and you live forever or whatever. But we had to come up with all the ideas, right, for it when we put it together.
That is excellent. So now with this, because you're so immersed in the horror genre, do you ever find yourself, at home going, I'm not watching a horror movie tonight?
Um, well, I'm a huge film fan, so I go through spurts and I do the same thing with music. I sort of go through spurts of the genres that I'm into or I get into or I have a hankering to watch. So I don't just sit at home and watch horror, 365 days a year. But if that's people's bag, all the power to you for sure. But I mean, around this time, like, I'll start trying to catch up on all the Oscar movies before the nominations come out or whatever's buzzy, just so I don't kind of miss on some of those great performances or movies that I haven't heard of. Sometimes that includes horror or thrillers or whatever. Sometimes it doesn't. And then I'm a huge 80s action movie fan and 90s action fan. So I kind of go through spurts, depending on what I want. But I love a good horror movie, and there's been some good ones come out over the last few years. And I always find myself like catching a movie that I hadn't seen in a while, and then ending up watching it. I guess that's like that sort of happens to me a lot.
I find myself do that every once in a while too. All right, we're going to get another six pack together then, Benner. Let's
Okay.
say you need to pick your 6 horror movies
Of all time
of
or
all
recently?
time, of any horror movie. Let's say even if they're out of print, if someone could magically get you one on DVD.
Well, I have a fairly extensive collection already, because I'm probably the biggest physical media collector of the group. Um, so I've got a ton, like all my favorites I already have on Blu-ray. But I can definitely give you I've been really immersed into 4K recently. And they're starting to release more and more stuff on 4K, and it'll be interesting to see if they really start doing that with horror movies. It looks like they are, at least the classics. But I'll give you a rundown. So my all-time favorite horror movie of all time is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the first one. It's just a visceral movie. It still holds up today. It's terrifying, and very. It's an uneasy film to watch. I know people will say, "Yeah, well, whatever." It's like, I've seen it 100 times, or it doesn't. But I still feel like it has the impact. And what I mean by that is, like, it's not for the people that have seen it 20, 30 times. It's for somebody that, let's say, you just met that never seen a horror movie, and you show them that movie and they've never seen it. I guarantee you it'd be an unsettling experience for them. It's a riveting movie, and it's definitely got obviously some social commentary, you know, underneath of it all, running through it, which I always find super interesting. I think horror sometimes doesn't get enough credit for making things that are thought provoking, and I feel that that's kind of I'm sure it started before then. But I can't remember another time or another film that's before that really set the stage for, everything to come after it. Halloween being the other one, I think, but just a film that kind of, a lot of people looked at Texas Chainsaw and they borrowed a lot of stuff from it. And it's funny because I just watched that new trailer for the new Ty West movie X, which looks super awesome. I can't wait to see it. But as soon as I started watching it, I was just like, man, this has got like 70s Texas Chainsaw vibes for sure. And there's no doubt that's an influence on that flick, even though I've just seen the trailer. But looking forward to that one too.
You have
Okay,
to
so
wonder.
sorry.
I was just gonna make one comment on that. You have to wonder too at one point where people are pulling things from the film because it works to make it thematically good, or when you get now, they're actually paying homage to the things that made them want to do film.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like it, and just kind of hitting back to what you were asking us about, like what do we look at when we're picking up films? It's just like what are you adding to the genre, right? Like horror genre isn't people borrow and get their influences and all that stuff all the time. Probably maybe more so than other genres, I think. But it's like what are you adding to it? So it's sort of like a great example is vampire movies or werewolf movies or whatever. Like what are you everyone knows the story of Dracula, everyone knows vampires, but what are you adding to that makes it kind of unique and stuff, right? So and that's something that I love taking from genre films as well. So okay, sorry. So six pack movies of all time. So Texas Chainsaw Massacre for sure. I don't know if I could narrow it down to one Hellraiser movie, but definitely Hellraiser 2 or 1 or 2. There is a special place in my heart for Hellraiser 3 as well. But Hellraiser, let's say Hellraiser. I just think it's a phenomenal flick and genuinely scary still. Great special effects and practical effects in that film. Oh man, horror films of all time, eh? Well,
No,
I know there's so many. Um,
nothing like putting you on the spot too. If I give you time to think about it, you come up with
yeah,
amazing lists. But now it's like,
yeah,
tell.
that's right. That's right. So I'm just trying to think of flicks I've seen recently too that have kind of blown me away. I mean I know it's gonna be it's the most cliched answer, but The Shining, like for me, and I've told this story a bunch, but it's like it was like one of the very first horror movies that I ever watched that I that kind of made an impact on me. And it's funny, like you go back and watch it now through the eyes of an older person. And you realize that it's not necessarily like, I think it's like different things are scarier for me in that movie now than when I watched it. But I watched it when I was like 11 or 12, I think, maybe 11. And uh my dad was like, hey, you want to see a scary movie? And I said, sure. And he's like, it's got one of my favorite actors in it, and which was obviously Jack Nicholson, which is like every dad, anyone our age, like their dads, I have yet to find a person that's like their dad is like, no, I didn't like Jack Nicholson. It seemed like everyone liked Jack. So yeah, and that just made a big impact on me as well, because it was like, and also is when you watch it now, it's not there's not it's all atmosphere, it's all like it's the setting, it's the uneasiness, it's the mind of the main character unraveling, and not only his mind, but it's like his wife is being more and more traumatized. And I know that there's a bunch of behind the scenes stories and of them actually terrorizing Shelley Duvall, but as a film, if you just watch the film, it's I just think it's an amazing accomplishment. And so that's on the list for sure. um I know I'm forgetting something here. Oh, Alien. I would personally say Aliens. So Alien 2, the sequel. I love Alien movies. Definitely horror, space horror. Space horror is like one of my favorite genres. It's just never really done that well that often. So, um, and I would say if it wasn't for Aliens, Event Horizon would be a big choice
Oh,
for this, because I
yeah.
love that movie. I think that's a movie that's aged really, really, really well, and is definitely one to check out for sure. But let's say Aliens. I just recently watched Aliens. I just got Disney Plus, which is not, I know, not very horror, but
Actually, there's a lot on there if you go into Star.
yeah. So I went into Star and I was like, I wonder how good these movies look. Like, I wonder how good their streaming service is and the quality of the stream. Blah 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 blah. A bunch of technical collector nonsense. But yeah, I watched Aliens. I just put on Aliens to say how good does this movie from like the '86 look on Disney Plus, Star streaming, whatever. And I ended up watching the whole thing, and
Yeah.
I love that movie. One, James Cameron is like the one of the best. I was just talking about this on a previous podcast, but James Cameron is like one of the greatest uh film filmmakers for sure, but just storytellers. Like his stuff is so concise. He world builds really well, and he creates characters that you automatically get invested in. I can't remember, is that the only sequel I mean, obviously he made Terminator 2, but that's a sequel to his own movie. But I think he made Piranha as well. I think like Piranha 2, didn't he? But let's not count that one. But like I think it's really the only film that he's made. What's that?
Avatar 2.
Yeah, that's not out yet though, right? So
Okay, yeah,
I know he like to take that film, like the original film is so amazing and so iconic, that Ridley Scott couldn't even recreate that movie himself, right? Like he couldn't, he didn't hit that bar twice with the other two movies he created, which is obviously Prometheus and Alien Covenant. But James Cameron makes Aliens, and if you watch that movie now, there's a lot of stuff in it that's like so forward thinking, for the time period, you know, and again, taking a character who is, like the heroine at the end of the movie, right? Ripley, and giving her more, like developing her more, creating a bigger arc for her. She wakes up later and like the people that she know that like the only person that she really knows that's alive is her cat. Everybody else has passed away because it's 56 years later or whatever. And then she has this whole arc in that movie about not only becoming a badass and in certain scenes, taking the reins and controlling the situation to get other people out of trouble. But also there's a motherly aspect to that movie as well, where she's like talking with Newt and all this stuff. Anyway, it's a brilliant movie. You have to watch the first one before you watch Aliens, but Aliens.
Well, and that's just it. That's the beauty of that film. You don't have to, but you get more out of it because of the depth of the character.
Exactly.
And
it's action packed. Like there's scenes where it's just like, I want to sing that theme music because it's so good. Like it's just like guys shooting, and it's like war with the aliens, which is like that movie was made in 86, man. Like what, 35 years ago, and they've never been able to recreate anything remotely that comes close to making, like, it should be easy, right? Like military guys and gals, military operation, alien, a bunch of aliens that are killing machines, right? And it just can't be done. So anyway, that's 4.
Get to 5. I'm going to mention there's a comment from Hail to the Deadites, which I think I know who that is.
Oh God!
He says literally, "Evil Dead." Come on, Benner.
Evil Dead. Well, so I have so the thing about Evil Dead is that, so this is a tough one, because the thing is with the Evil Dead is I watched the Evil Dead trilogy in reverse when I was young. So I watched Army of Darkness first, and then I watched Evil Dead 2, and then I watched Evil Dead 1. So I know I wouldn't recommend people do that, but so I've always considered like Army of Darkness to be more of like a comedy than a horror, but just because it's Hail to the Deadites, I'm going to say Army of Darkness, with a caveat to say, with the S-Mart ending. So the S-Mart ending is the best. It's awesome. And one of my favorite scenes, probably in that whole series, is when he throws the shotgun up in the air and he jumps, like Bruce Campbell jumps on the thing, and then he catches the shotgun like way like it's just so funny. It's like he's thrown that shotgun like 500 feet up into the air and then catches it. Brilliant. I love Sam Raimi, so sure. Okay, we'll say Army of Darkness. Okay, are you happy with that? Hail to the Deadites. Are you happy? Okay. But I love that movie, and I love horror comedies. I think they are kind of few and far between as well. They're hard to do. Comedy's hard to do, right? So, and I got
comedy
6.
Itself is hard to do. So comedy horror. Jeez.
6 film, 6 horror. I'm trying to think. Oh no, I'm kind of.
And see, the minute you give me number 6, you're going to think of 4 more that should have been.
Yeah, I know exactly. I should just get it out. I should just get it over with. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna say Nightmare on Elm Street, just because I think that concept is so brilliant, and that it was made when it was made. Like it was made after Halloween and after Friday the 13th. Like it is a slasher movie but the concept of that film is so great. You know, a guy that hunts you in your dreams, and the backstory of Freddy is so rich, and it's just, you know, I know the later sequels get a little wacky, but I would say, you know, the first four films are certainly super cool, and they've got this really neat aesthetic and really memorable imagery in those first four films. The fifth one's not bad either. I don't mind the fifth one, but definitely the first four have these sort of like anything you associate with Nightmare on Elm Street comes from kind of those first four films. But just the idea of like, and you know, the guy's like he's a and just the plot is it's not that insane, right? It's not that complicated, but it's so crisp and well executed. You know, guy is a child murderer. All the parents from the town kill him because he's like this, you know, this perverted psychotic guy, burn him alive, and then that's how he shows up in dreams, and he comes back to like exact his revenge and all these kids, and it's like that's such a great simple idea. And I don't know, I don't want to say it's hasn't been eclipsed, but it's hard to know what would come close. Like I think there's a few films that I think really tried, and I thought had a really great idea. But Nightmare on Elm Street is like it's at the top of the heap, man. It's a great flick.
Nice. Well, before we carry on, I'm going to throw out some questions now because I gathered three, and one of them is the one you suggested.
Okay.
For, Bloody Bits, we're going to give this one away. And we will give this one away to anyone who can name the 6 films that Benner said were his Black Fawn 6-pack. Okay.
Oh.
Then we will give away, we got to give away this one. Silent Retreat. Where is it? There we go. And this will be to anyone that can now name Benner's horror 6-pack that we just went through. And last but not least, I was on the fence about this, but yeah. We're going to give away Disco Path. And this
out of print. I must say that's out of print, and it's hard to find.
Yes. And this will be to people who can let me know who or what was the first film that Black Fawn distributed for distribution. So what I'm going to have you do is send your answers to my email right there. Okay. And what we'll do is I'll hold it open for 4 days. So midnight on Sunday, then I will take all the names, throw them into a pot, and we'll do a draw. Okay.
Very cool.
See if I can get Benner back on to help me do that one.
Sure. Yeah. I'm down.
And if you want to check out some of the films that Benner's been talking about, check out blackfawndistribution.com because you can see some of the blacklists that we were talking about, some of the other films, and there is so much fun stuff to look at on that website. Like with the new one, what was the new one again that you're just releasing?
So we just put so last year we released Oak Room and Hall. And both of those films are available on VOD and iTunes, Google Play, YouTube. And we'll be looking and we'll be releasing a lot of more. I mean, last year was just a bit of a weird year. It was a bit tricky to know, when conventions were happening, when stores were open, et cetera, et cetera. So we kind of put a little bit of a pause on physical production, which was, hard for us because we like seeing boxes of stuff come in cases of films. But look for us to amp that up in 2022. There's lots of stuff coming down the pipe.
Perfect. And if you like the show, I'm going to put this up here too and flitch it over. There's our Patreon. So you can sign up to the show and catch all the shows, like not just Canuck of the Dead, but Let's Scream, all the other ones that are online with us here. Benner, thank you so much for coming on and joining us for our first live show.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I mean, it was, a lot of fun for sure. Thanks for putting me on the spot too. You said, hey, we're going to talk about your favorite horror films. I didn't know I had to pick 6 out of the air. So
I'm surprised.
Lots of fun for sure. But no, I appreciate and it's super cool what you guys are putting together over on the YouTube channel. And hopefully, make sure everyone checks out that the Infamous Horror contest, which is running January. Go share and comment on the Facebook post on Infamous Horror Facebook, And then all you need to do is like the Infamous Horror YouTube page, the Black Fawn Distro YouTube page, and you're entered in to win a big ass prize pack.
That's exciting. That is very exciting. In that case, for Canuck of the Dead, I am Rob, my good buddy Benner, and we'll see you all later.